In this video, we are going to talk about selling your niche business. Selling your niche business is a great strategy. It's a great way to have an exit strategy if you build up your niche to the point where you're ready to move on. It's a great way if you just have put in all your effort and you're ready to just give up and go on to something else. It's a great way for you to actually make a little extra income. Now, do want to caution you before you go to the extent of selling your business, if you are ready to quit on the niche you chose, make sure that you have put in ample time and opportunity because building up any kind of an online business does take time, it does take effort. And many people do forget this part of being able to sell it. And so that would be one good reason. Another thing is you could do this as an entire business model is build up these niche businesses and then turn around and sell them. And a lot of people forget that they are building an asset. Your email list, your traffic, your website, that is an asset that could be sold. Even a quote failed website in your eyes is worth money to someone else. As they always say, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and that is so true when it comes to selling your niche business. And again, be careful not to quit your niche site too soon. Pricing ideas for your website. For example, let's say for these examples, giving $1,500 a month profit and $100 a month profit examples. So let's say because of this, when you sell a website, it's more based on what the profit is. And also, if you do have a website with a good amount of traffic but very little profit, that's still okay because there is still value in that traffic. It could just be that you haven't monetized the site appropriately. Now, if you followed along with how to monetize your niche already, you should have already have things in place that are so your site is monetized well. But if you're not, then this training will help you. So for example, if we give you $1,500 a month profit on your site, and then we have another example of $100 a month profit, here's where we're at. A well-aged website with high traffic and no revenue, that is actually still very, very valuable. So keep that in mind. So let's look at another example, at other examples of sold sites that are out there. So let's go through here and say that some website businesses, so there are some website for sale marketplaces that say you could actually take a 3 months average net profit for your business. So you take the last 3 months, and let's say that averages out in this example to $1,500 a month. That would be kind of, a niche market that maybe you've been working on for a while. We're going to multiply that out times 20, and that would set a reserve price, meaning the minimum that you would want to sell your site or what your site is worth at $30,000. And the reason I'm giving you two examples is one, so you can see on a lower end if your site was generating 100 a month, and then the other example I'm giving is if it was 1,500 a month. And then obviously as it scales up, it could be 4,000 a month, 10,000 a month. By then you've got an asset that's worth quite a bit there. So if you do that, in theory, a website that's making $100 per month, if you the 3 month average, so the last 3 months that your site made a profit, the last 3 months that it made a profit, you would multiply that by 20, and that would give you a reserve price of $2,000. And again, the reserve is the minimum price you're willing to sell your site for. Another method that some people do is two and a half times the annual earnings. And so annual earnings, let's say that your site makes a profit of $1,500 a month on average for the whole year. So you multiply that by 12, and that comes out to an earnings of $18,000 for the year from your one website. So you would take that 18,000 and multiply it by 2.5 times. That gives you a reserve price of 45,000. Another example, let's say the $100 example, so that's 1,200 a year times 2.5, that gives you a reserve of 3,000. Now, the reason I'm kind of throwing these numbers out here is not to just confuse you, but to kind of demonstrate for you that there are so many different ways to evaluate a website price, and these are all different websites that I've actually seen and researched. In fact, the one above here, it's through a source called Empire Flippers. They kind of recommend you go this route. Then there's also like Flippa, which is one of the more popular ones. They usually do like either 12 times the monthly revenue or 2.5 times annual earnings. There's another source called Biz Buy Sell. I've personally been in the middle of a website deal that sold in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that was close to $1 million sale. And with that sale, it was actually a website that was earning only, earning 400,000. It was about 440,000 and ended up selling for about 795,000. And so it was almost very close to about maybe 1.5 times what their annual earnings were. And so every single business deal is different. And it really boils down to what is your market willing to pay and how desperate are you to actually sell that website asset? Are you ready to move on that much? And the reserve price is more just an idea for you so you aren't actually underpricing your site. Now, one thing to keep in mind though is if you are in the business of building up these niche sites and trying to sell them, and part of your revenue is dependent on if you sell these sites, you may have to actually go low on some of these estimates. You may only do 12 times the monthly revenue, or 12 times or 2.5 times the annual earnings, or you may want to only do like 1.5 times the annual earnings, and that way you're kind of doing a lower price point. It's all about what people are willing to pay. In that same website deal that I've been a middleman on, I've been part of multiple deals, and it's funny to me that you find people that they're not willing to spend $20,000 on a business that somebody else will come around and spend $795,000 on. And it's quite interesting, and it really just proves a point that it just depends on who's buying the website. And I'm going to share with you what places to list your site on. But again, when it comes to pricing your website, it really is going to vary. I'm using this as an idea. You could pick one of these methods and do 3 months your average net profit, so your last 3 months of net profit. And your net profit, I'll explain that on the next slide here. But if you go through these steps, like the 12 times monthly revenue, so that would say whatever your site generated, not a profit, meaning if you were paying for advertising to get that revenue generated, then the advertising expense would come off the actual revenue and you would be left with whatever your profit is. So we're going to say you spent $500 a month in advertisement, and so your net profit was $1,500 again. And you do that method, you are down, 2,000 monthly revenue, your reserve price is 24,000. And if you do the same thing that we did again, and we kind of base it on, kind of a percentage based, but let's say you're spending 150 a month on ads, and right there your reserve would be 3,000. So it just kind of, it really does vary like what method you're going to go with. And for example, you can see especially on the $1,500 level, we had three totally different reserve prices. Some theories are saying, hey, you should sell that website for $30,000 and not any less. Another one is telling you 45,000 and no less. Another one is telling you 24,000 and no less. If you want a quick sale, I would maybe price that asset at $20,000 or $15,000 to $20,000 in that range if you want a super quick sale. This also gives you a good range though. You could actually use all three of these methods and then add them up and then just divide them by 3 to see what the average is for those. So you could take 30, that'd be 75,000, and then 99,000, divide that by 3. That actually gives you $33,000 could be your reserve price. So you just go with a flat 33,000 based on that. And it might sound like crazy talk to you, but it really is when it comes down to website evaluations. And this is just honest off the cuff training. You could talk to 10 different people that evaluate websites, and you're going to probably end up getting 10 different answers from those people as to what a business is worth. And really at the end of the day, it just simply boils down to what are people willing to pay for it? What are they willing to pay for that asset? And it's not like, especially with the buying and selling a website businesses, where they're, it's like real estate where it has to have a minimum price point or else a bank's just not going to finance it and it's not going to make sense. But when it comes to these kind of assets, it's very, there's really no cut and dry answer. There's no set answer on what you should list your business as. I wanted to share these different methods with you though, because these are three of the more popular ways that people list their website when they are trying to come up with a selling price. Here, some other things defining the important selling points. So when you are selling your website, you do need to know some basic business phrases, and you probably already know these, but I just want to point them out to you. Your net profit, that's what you get to keep after all your bills are paid with your website. So that would include, like if you have an e-commerce website, that would include your cost for inventory or your cost for purchasing products that are then drop shipped out to your customers. That would involve your advertising costs, your outsourcing costs, like what'd you pay for content creation or articles, blogs, infographics, maybe customer support, hosting cost, your autoresponder fees. So that's what your net profit is after all these expenses have been paid. That is your net profit. That is what you're left with. Your revenue is the gross sales, like everything that site makes. Everything that came in, every dollar that came in, that would be the revenue. And so you take the revenue and you subtract the actual expenses from the revenue, and that becomes your net profit. Annual earnings would include the net profit for a 12-month period. So that's the net profit over a 12-month period. And then unique visitors, when you're describing unique visitors, that includes individuals that have seen your site. That is, visitors and unique visitors are totally different things, because oftentimes if you have repeat web visitors, which hopefully you do because that means your content is good, and if you have repeat web visitors, what that basically would indicate is that it's only going to count one time as a unique visitor. So unique visits is really the most important stat people are looking at when they're buying a website business. Impressions are how many times your site's pages were opened. That is what an impression is. So how many times different pages on your site were opened up or that your site was shown. That is what impressions are. They're also known as page views as well. You want to give as many details as possible when you list your site. You want to let people know how it makes money, what your expenses are, what your net profit is at the end of the day. How much money did you get to take home from your business after running it for 12 months? What was your profit? People really do want to know these things. What are your unique visitors? What is their average time on site? And that's where, if you're using tracking tools like Google Analytics, it works really well because you can integrate that when you're selling your business. Just be very specific. Building sites and selling them can actually be an entire business for yourself, and that's called website flipping, which some of you may have heard about. So I'm going to go in through the process of actually listing a website. First, I want to explain some of the websites to you. So the most popular one out here is Flippa. That's flippa.com. It's a very large website for sale marketplace. You can use it for niche research, and you can also use it for selling your website as well. EmpireFlippers.com, I mentioned them on the previous slide when I was talking about the valuation. They tend to go off that valuation where you do the last 3 months of the net profit and multiply that out by 20. That tends to be what they do when they sell their site, and they're very successful at what they do. So who am I to argue with exactly what they're saying? Everybody's got a different formula, though. That's the fascinating thing when it comes to selling a business online. EmpireFlippers.com, that is their website here. Websitebroker.com. This is another site that you could sell your website on. BizBuySell.com. BizBuySell.com. Believe it or not, this is a marketplace where you can actually buy like convenience stores and real estate businesses and entire businesses that come with physical property, but you can actually find and buy website businesses. And you'll notice people have businesses that are listed for businesses that could be run from home, and a lot of those are website businesses. And so BizBuySell is a great place to list a website asset, and it's kind of neat because there's not a lot of competition for other websites for sale. Like on Flippa, it's just websites. Empire Flippa, or Empire Flippers, it's just websites. Website Broker, obviously, it's just websites. And so BizBuySell.com, you could actually list your website business with very little competition and get a very unique quality kind of person, because people browsing BizBuySell tend to have a little more money up front. They tend to be a little more, comfortable with spending money online. And that's one thing to keep in mind, though, is that if you're going to go through like BizBuySell, you want to make sure that your site's making in that range of $1,500 a month in profit, for example, or $1,000 a month in profit before you really pursue this one. You could also try listing here, because it does cost you, it's about $100 to list here. But if maybe you're earning $500 a month profit and you're trying to get $6,000 to $10,000 for your website, this might be a good option for you. So if your website's worth between $5,000 or more, you may want to consider listing it on BizBuySell. If it's only worth $2,000 to $3,000, I would stick with Flippa or try Empire Flippers or one of those other sites. Quiet Light Brokerage is another popular site that people wanting to sell their business through, they go here. Now, this site, these guys are actual website brokers, so they're website for sale, experts. And they're probably going to use their own unique proprietary formulas, they'll probably call it. But what you can do is you could actually get in touch with them if you have a business that's doing, I would say about $1,000 or more a month in profit. These guys may be able to help you sell it. If anything less than that, or if you have a site that maybe it's not making a lot of money, but it has a large amount of visitors and it's been around for quite a while, that may be something that they would want to consider brokering. But when you do a broker deal, you're paying them 10 to 20 sometimes 30% of whatever the selling price is. Most of the time, it's probably 10%. It just depends on the different website broker, but they're actually out there kind of like a real estate broker, but they're selling your website. And this is more for if you have a website that's been around a while. Maybe you have an e-commerce site that is making $100,000 a year in revenue, and it's, after the profit, it's maybe worth 50 to 75,000. And you are looking for a little higher quality visitor that may not be hanging out on Flippa. So you could go to these guys and set up an arrangement and give them 30 to 45 days to sell it. So this is more of a strategy if you have a larger website, kind of like listing on Biz Buy Sell as well. So I'm going to go through the process now that I introduced you to these other websites. Flippa.com is the easiest one to do it, by yourself. You're not having to deal with third parties like you are with the other sources. Empire Flippers is a pretty good one, but there is some, they do review your site and they may or may not accept it. Whereas with Flippa, they're going to accept most websites that you list on here. And so this is a good one, especially for those starting out with website flipping. So if you go here to Flippa.com, and what we're going to see here is just kind of an image of different websites that have sold, so you can kind of see how the Flippa system works. So one of the first things you want to do here is go over here at the top right hand corner where it says sell, and you want to click on that sell button. And I'm just put up an example niche website that I have. Then I just kind of threw together some numbers and I went ahead and put it in here. So I just went in and typed in my domain. It asked me what the domain name is of the site I want to sell. So I put in csshowto.com. What kind of website is it? This is where you would mark, is it a blog? Is it a review site? Is it a content site? A directory? A forum? E-commerce? Do you sell services? Is it a web application? Is it a other? So that's where you could put in, whatever your website is. And in this case, we'll just call it a blog here. And then we'll click on next. Next, you're taken over to this page where it's going to ask you to verify your traffic with Google Analytics. I recommend you use Google Analytics not only to see what your traffic is doing. It's great to know how much traffic you actually have. It's a reliable tracking tool. It tells you, if you have problems with people bouncing off your website quickly and leaving your site, it tells you what pages people are visiting the most. Google Analytics gives you extremely valuable information. So what you want to do is verify your traffic with Google Analytics, and you could also enter your traffic manually, but if you verify your traffic with Google Analytics, it's going to increase your chances of selling on Flippa tremendously because people really like and trust the Google Analytics system. So it's very, very, important that you maybe consider listing with Google Analytics, because if you verify your traffic, you're going to have a verified badge which will really inspire confidence in your buyers. And so when you are doing the traffic, consider doing Google Analytics right there. As far as revenue goes, you could mark, does the site generate revenue, yes or no. If you select yes, you could choose what monetization methods are used. You could say AdSense or Amazon, so you have affiliate links. Are you drop shipping items? Is it ClickBank? Do you have a physical product or a information product that you're selling through ClickBank? Is it an e-commerce web store with drop shipping, a subscription service like a membership site? So point out what your revenue is. The pitch, this is a great part. They kind of actually fill it in for you. So this website I was selling, it happens to be a PageRank 2 website with 3,000 unique visitors a month. So that headline there is actually pretty good because people like to have websites with a page rank and like to have websites with unique visitors already going to it. So you could stick with that, or you could call it something else. One thing I like to do is go through some of the previous sold listings, and you can do a search in the advanced search feature to look at past websites that have sold on Flippa and look at what their subject line is, especially the ones that are getting a lot of bids and a lot of attention. So what you could do here is put in a summary, kind of a short paragraph as to what this website is. A sentence or two would be plenty there. And then in the description, be very descriptive as far as how your website makes money, a brief history, and they actually tell you things to include, like what technology is used, things that are included like domains, an email list, social media accounts, your plan for the transaction, the reason that you're selling. That's an important one. A lot of times people want to know a reason, and they get very skeptical if you don't have a good reason. And a good enough reason could be that you're just ready to move on. You're moving on to another niche market and ready to give this website, a chance for somebody else to succeed at it. Or you could say, I'm in the business of building websites and turning around and selling them. Whatever your reason is, be very honest about it, because it's going to actually instill confidence in your buyers for you. Next thing you want to do, you'll be taken after the pitch, which is where you put in your description and your tagline or your title. The tagline becomes the title for the listing, and then your summary. You're going to go ahead and put in the sale. So this is where your auction is going to run for, let's say, 14 days. That's a good baseline. It's a good time to run it. And then you set your reserve price. Is it, $300, or if you're using the method that I used previously, you set your reserve price. Maybe your site is making $100 a month, so you could use that formula, and let's say you want to list it for $3,000 reserve or $2,000 reserve. And that would be a good starting point. Look at the payment methods you'll accept. So for sales under 5,000, you could accept escrow.com and PayPal. You could just select one of those or both of them. People like to work with escrow.com. It's very popular and it's a very seamless transaction. So after they purchase the website from you, they are taken to escrow.com, where they would actually send the money to escrow.com. Escrow sends you a notification saying, hey, the money is in escrow, transfer the files. You transfer the files. They confirm that they were transferred, and the money is released right back into your possession and your account, and you no longer have the website. It's a very seamless process, protects both the buyer and seller. So I would recommend accepting escrow, and for the lower end websites under 5,000, I would take PayPal as well if you have a PayPal account. That way you're giving your potential buyers multiple ways to pay you. So next thing you want to do is going to offer to promote, if you want to promote this package further. So it'll say promote your listing to reach more buyers. Obviously the first one there is probably the highest value solution. They call it ultra premium, and they say you can get up to 40 times the view on your listing and 5 times the bids. And so what they'll do is they'll actually email it to all their subscribers. It's going to be on top of the normal listings, dedicated premium support, and then it's going to be tweeted out there, a screenshot, highlighted listings. And so this is probably the best value package that they say, because if you were to purchase all these things separately, it would cost a certain amount of money. And you can scroll on down on the promote page to find different offers to go with. Most of the time, these are more the basic add-ons you could do. So you could do a homepage feature listing. You could do a tweet one. You could bold your title, which really does make it stand out. Do a spotlight listing and those types of things. But the most important thing you can do is, just to list the site, just the general listing fee is $19 with Flippa. So you're going to have to go ahead and pay Flippa. You could pay with credit card or you could pay with PayPal, and then you're able to take care of that. Once you pay for your listing goes live and it's ready to be sold. So in the next video, we're going to kind of wrap up this niche marketing process so you understand your next steps so you can get out there and start making money with your own niche business.